Now, in a time before social care and the welfare state, the home for little boys in Farningham was revolutionary. It looked after around 100 children who were all given up by their destitute families. The boys, who might otherwise have ended up in the workhouse, were brought up in a community paid for by wealthy philanthropists, where they were given an education and apprenticeships. Today, one of them, who's now 89, returned to Farningham as a new book about the history of the home was published. Robin Gibson has the story.
They arrived as young as 4 years old, from broken homes, destitute households, widowed parents. For them, family life, as they might have known it, was over.
I'll never forget my dad leaving me at the door in number 1 and seeing him walk away. Never forgotten that, even though I was only 4 years old. I'm at the window shouting and screaming after him as he's walking off. I've never forgotten that.
In the 1860s, Farningham Homes for Little Boys was a Victorian step forward in social care, a step away from starvation, neglect and the poorhouse. An institutional upbringing maybe, but it changed lives, as Philip Roast discovered from his late father's memoir.
Well, it brought me to tears, to be honest. You know, I'm sitting there just reading this book thinking it was going to be a recollection of his time at the homes. And then it makes you realise you don't really know your father at all to the full extent, because he'd kept so much quiet. You know, he'd had good times, but there was so much that was painful.
It existed for nearly a century, and in that time, more than 3,000 boys grew up here, the only place they knew as home.
So the idea was to give the boys a home, a traditional home with a substitute mother and father, to give them an education, to teach them a trade, and in many cases to find them a job in the outside world when they left.
From the 21st century, it seems like a cold upbringing. Communal housing, religious instruction, work in the fields or the laundry.
Yeah, when you think back on it, it was all right.
Each year, old boys of the homes return to swap stories and memories. True survivors keeping their story alive. Robin Gibson, BBC South East Today, South Darenth.